Day of Music has been a pretty consistent gig for us. So what the Day of Music is, basically every year on June 21st, the summer solstice, all across the country there's a foundation who basically sets up a series of festivals. And it's been a really cool way for us to interact with different venues that we probably wouldn't get to play otherwise. Almost every year we've had a different lineup, and because of that, we've had a pretty distinct vibe every time we've played. This year was a unique challenge. It's been an entire year since we've played a live show, and we decided it would be a good idea to play 3 shows in one day after not playing any shows for an entire year. Going into the day, we felt pretty confident, but it wasn't without its fair share of obstacles. The first show of the day was at Comic Book Hideout. We've played there quite a few times in the past. Last year was a great gig. We were probably at our peak as a band there. This year, however, after a year of not playing, it was a bit different. So last year, Juan had begun to really get into jazz music. There was a little bit of tension between the band for this first show. You could definitely tell his heart wasn't into playing rock anymore.
Ask a rock musician to play jazz and he can't do it. Ask a jazz musician to play rock and he could probably do it in 10 minutes. It's not that difficult to feel and to do, I don't think, for a musician that can handle it.
Doesn't fucking matter. I swear to God. It doesn't matter. It's the other things that make up for your musical inability.
But the jazz thing, I think, maybe a little more sophisticated craft-wise and even feeling-wise.
Jazz transcends life and death.
As a drummer, I just knew that if you put me on stage without a fucking PA or floor monitors in a small club, that I would beat the fucking shit out of my drums so much that people go, God damn, did you see that fucking drummer?
Unfortunately, there's no video footage of our set at Comic Book Hideout. I set up my phone to record the set, but I forgot to hit the record button. While our first show wasn't great, I remained cautiously optimistic. Our next set was at a place called the Bird Bar, the dive bar on the outskirts of Fullerton. This was the kind of place that screamed rock and roll from the second you walked into their bathroom. Wait, what? Unfortunately, they didn't have a microphone or mic stand, so I have to go a few blocks down back to Juan's car, which broke down earlier, and get a backup stand out of his trunk, and then go back. Meanwhile, the place is waiting for a performance. There is a band that is not playing. There is a beer that I am not drinking. And yeah, not the smoothest day so far. While I waited to make this left turn, Juan was inside the venue, keeping busy with his greatest passion, tuning his guitar. It had been a pretty long morning up to this point, but when we got our mic and the mic stand and the guitars were tuned and we got our shit together, we made some pretty good music. Said, it was a great warm-up for what was going to be our most important show of the night, and that was going to be at the Bowery, which not only was our third show of the day, but it was also Ines' birthday show. Ines has been our official, unofficial photographer / videographer for a number of years now. And since this was her birthday show, we decided, you know what, you pick the venue, you pick the music, and we'll do our best to deliver.
Those men were there on my birthday. It was one of those great birthdays where people woke up in places that they didn't know how they got there. They didn't remember the night. Someone got a concussion.
Because this was such an important show, I decided to hire an audio technician and a lighting technician for this one. I figured we got to go big for this, so we did.
I kind of keep it hands off. I let them, set their own mics, their own things, mess with their own faders, all their own EQ. I let them do all the compression and things like that. Everything, I let them take care of it.
I do think he might have been a little too hands off.
I wasn't even at that show. Really?
Yeah, he didn't actually show up, and we didn't have a PA for this show, unfortunately, so we had to borrow one from the act before us. This is Lee from the band My Two Eyes. Thanks for your PA, Lee. Despite some early challenges, this was definitely our best show of the day. One of our best shows ever, to be honest. We were locked in. You just needed to hear us for 1 second, and you knew it was something special. Armed with a disco ball and a single hanging light bulb inspired by Paramore, we went out and gave one hell of a show.
writing does not sound like writing, but it definitely is writing. You would think these people were making it up on the spot, but then you realize this was all part of the stagecraft.
Pure Symmetry seems to be her favorite song. We had to do it for her. I'm not really sure why. You'd have to ask her. So maybe she could tell you.
I'm gonna start crying when I talk about it. It's one of those songs that if you're a certain kind of teenage girl, you think, you know what would really help me get a boyfriend is knowing all the words to this song, and then you realize about 30 seconds too late that it won't, and it's not. But those, yeah, it was that's my song.
That's the day of music for you guys. Big thank you to anyone who came out there to watch us, anyone watching the video, anyone listening to the music. We really do appreciate it. It's probably going to be our last show for a while. We are working on some new stuff. We did play a new song called Flower Bomb, and that's probably a good idea of what direction we're going to take. A lot moodier, a little dancier. Yeah, so hopefully Day of Music 2020 will be even better. Thanks, guys.